Hello, Pastor Michael Rote here. Continuing on with my testimony. As I said, I probably would make a few videos on this. And again, I'll mention this, that anybody that views these, I sure do hope it's a help and a blessing to you and an encouragement to you. And I'm just trying to give God all the glory for what He's done for me. But one of the main reasons why I'm wanting to record these is, again, for my children and grandchildren, my family on down the line, to leave my testimony for them, to be a help and a blessing to my family, and for them to be able to say, I've got a godly heritage. And I feel that to be very important. And so that's why I'm sharing these. So my first video, first part of my testimony, I shared on how I got saved, when I got saved, and what the Lord had lined up and set in place for me to be able to hear the gospel and have a chance to get saved. And then the second part of my testimony, I shared with how the Lord arranged everything and lined everything up for me to be able to get along with Him and at youth camp, for Him to really press upon my heart and for me to get to a place to where I surrendered my will over to His will, and surrendered to preach His word, and I have been ever since July 14th of 1999 to this day. And today on this, I want to share my testimony on how the Lord put me and my wife together. It's very important that we have the right partner, the right spouse, and I believe that God has given me His absolute very best in Acela. I want to start off by saying this. I love my wife with all my heart. I thank God for Him giving me my wife. I cannot do the things that I do, and I would not be the man that I am without her. She backs me, she supports me, she loves me, she helps me, she encourages me, she scolds me when I need it, and she's a wonderful mother to our beautiful children, and I could not ask for anybody better. If I thank God for giving me Acela. And so I want to share with you this third part of my testimony of how God brought the two of us together. And I'll start off by saying this. I was born and raised in the same area that I live in today. I was in Kings Mountain is where I've lived all my life, out in the Oak Grove area, and that's where I still live, out in that same area. But Acela was not born here in North Carolina, not born in the U.S. She was born in Mexico, and in Juarez. And I'm glad that the Lord brought us together. I tell people all the time that you don't have to go out searching. God will send the right one by your way. Your paths will cross. And here's how the two of us met, how the Lord brought everything together. So I'd already surrendered to preach. And as I shared in my last part of my testimony, I got involved in the bus ministry. And at this point, I had already become the captain of my bus. And those that had been helping me, the Lord had moved one to another church to help out in that church, and the other one had moved on to another church as well. And so it was pretty much just me, and I had a driver, and it was me. And so I did for a short period of time there. I did all the visiting, and I would run to the doors on Sundays and knock on the doors and get the kids back to the bus, and then try to do all the singing and preaching and everything on the bus while running back and forth to the doors. And but that's all right. The Lord moved and blessed in that during that time. My driver at the time was very faithful, but there was a Sunday where he was going to be going on vacation, and I had no idea if I was going to have a driver for the bus. So you have to have a CDL license to drive a bus, and at that time I was in high school. But I wasn't able to have a CDL license with a passenger endorsement, so I couldn't drive the bus legally. And so I remember on that Saturday, I still went out and knocked on doors, still visited all the kids on my route, visited my regulars, knocked on some new doors, and was just hoping and praying that the Lord would line something up. And thank God he did. My pastor, Wayne Reese, had asked his sister, who had just started coming to the church some, to if she would drive the bus for me. And she had a CDL license. She drove a school bus, and so she accepted. Said yes, she'd be more than glad to do it. And like I said, they hadn't been coming to the church very long. And when she came on that Sunday morning, she brought her daughter and she brought her niece, and her niece being Isela, and because she lived with them. And so when they came to drive the bus for me, that's really the first time I really got to really have any kind of conversation with them. And come to find out that Isela and I were the same age. And what I did not know was that we went to the same school, and we were in the same grade. Our high school, had at that time, I guess probably 1,000 students in it. I'm not sure. And you changing classes, you don't know everybody. Plus, I had played sports, and so that's kind of the crowd that I guess I was with the most. And I didn't really know her, and so we got to talking, and so they helped me on that bus that Sunday. Well, after meeting her and getting to talk with her, I was interested in her, and but being very bashful and shy, I didn't know how to approach her and talk to her about going on a date or anything like that. And but we just continued to see each other at church, and then I would see her at school now because she was on my radar, and we began to talk a little bit, but nothing serious. And I remember our youth group, we were going to be singing, doing some of the special singing in a youth rally that Brother Chris Hazelip was going to be preaching, and he was preaching at North Gaston High School. They had reserved the auditorium at North Gaston High School for a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I remember on that Friday night, our youth group went and we did the singing, and then we listened to the preaching. And I remember at the altar call, I remember seeing Isela go up and go down to the altar at the altar call. And what happened was Isela wasn't saved, and but she heard the gospel and had been hearing the gospel, and she went down to the altar that night and she got saved. She got born again that night. And so then I was really interested, because now I know for sure that she's saved, and I wanted to make sure that I was going to date and and then eventually marry a Christian. And so that got me a little bit more interested, and that was on Friday. Then on Sunday morning at our church, our youth choir was going to do the special singing that Sunday morning, and generally what would happen when our youth choir would sing 2-3 songs, but some of us would testify in between the songs. And I remember after the first song, I remember Isela testified, and I could not believe it. Here she is. She just got saved on Friday, and then here she is giving a testimony of what the Lord did for her, tears streaming down her face. And I tell you, it just it blessed my heart. And I remember that Sunday night, I said, okay, it's time to stop being a chicken. It's time to quit being shy and bashful. And so I remember after church, I remember when I got home, I was sitting out on the front porch of Mama and Papa's house, and got my phone, and I called her. She answered the phone, and I remember I was so smooth, and I was so suave. Boy, I'm telling you, I had all the right words. And I remember talking to her on the phone, and I remember stuttering and stammering and asking her if she wanted to, I don't know, kind of make this a relationship type thing. Very smooth. If I'd have been her, I believe I'd have hung up the phone, but she said yes. And that was on April the 22nd of 2001. Yeah, April 2nd of 2001. And we began to get serious, I guess you would say. The way we dated, I know I used the word date, and I always had some folks in the church that always correct me and say, no, bro, it's courting. So we dated, courted, whatever you want to call it. And the way we way we dated, way we courted, was bus visitation. I would pick her up on Saturday mornings, and we would eat breakfast together. Then we'd go to the church and meet up with everybody else for soul winning visitation and the bus ministry. And we'd have our meeting there, and then we would head out, and we would go visit our regular riders. And then after we'd visit all of our regulars, we would get lunch somewhere, and then we'd go knock on new doors. And then when we got through doing that, then we would, either go over to her house and hang out for a little bit, or she'd come over to my house and hang out for a little bit. Then I would take her home, or I would leave from her house and go home. And that's how we dated. We'd see each other at school. Saturday soul winning visitation, Sundays at church, on the bus route all day. And the Lord really moved and blessed in that. And I knew within a short period of time that she's the one for me, and that God brought her all the way from Mexico, and her testimony, maybe one day I could maybe record her and get her to give her testimony of how the Lord got her here to North Carolina, and how the Lord moved in her life. But I'm so glad that He did, and I'm glad that He made our paths cross, and it was through the ministry. So many people want to go out, and they want to go and try to meet somebody at a bar. They want to go out and try to meet somebody at a nightclub. And, I didn't go out looking. Honestly, I was just so wrapped up in doing the bus route, preaching in children's church, Friday night youth services, and things like that I was so wrapped up in church that I just really wasn't looking until the Lord brought her by my way. And the Lord knew exactly what He was doing, and He knew exactly who I needed. This year, June 21st of this year, 2023, we'll be celebrating our 20th wedding anniversary. And I thank God that He put us together, and we've been together through it all. We've had our ups and downs and battles that we've faced in the ministry, and we've seen the some health concerns, and we've seen all that, and God's been good, and God has moved, and God has blessed. God has blessed us with children because of God putting us together. And I'll share this maybe in my next installment of my testimony of how the Lord's used us in churches. But it was because of the Lord putting us together that it steered us in the direction of knocking on doors of people who speak Spanish, because she speaks Spanish. She's bilingual, and that led to us starting a Spanish church. Well, it was through that that the Lord allowed our paths to cross Samuel. Samuel being our oldest child, he's adopted. He's our adopted son, and I thank God for him. But I never would have met him. I never would have known who he was had it not been for God putting me and Acela together, and then God using her to encourage me to go and knock on certain neighborhoods of people that I couldn't speak to. I couldn't speak their language, but we went that way and was able to reach some more people that I couldn't reach by myself. And then that allowed us to cross the path of Sam. And then Sam, we ended up taking him in, and he's our son. And because of that, we have 3 grandchildren, because of God putting us together and allowing our paths to cross Sam's path. We have Isaiah. Isaiah is 14, and Sam preaches. Isaiah preaches. Isaiah's like my right-hand man. Everything that I do, he's right there with me. He helps me in the bus ministry still to this day. I still drive a route, still have a bus route of my own, and Isaiah is there with me every Saturday, every Sunday, and Acela is too. All my kids are on Saturdays, and then it's me and Isaiah on Sunday mornings going and picking everybody up. And God blessed me with a wonderful son in Isaiah. I mean, he's such a good boy. He's very responsible and loves the Lord. Involved in the church. He preaches once a month in children's church. He does the PA at the church. He goes on soul winning visitation. He helps me on the bus route, and still handles all of his school work, and and play sports. And I mean, I'm just very proud of him. And then the Lord blessed us 10 years later after Isaiah was born with Lily. Lily is 4 years old. She'll be 5 here in just a few weeks. And I'm actually in line right now at school to pick her up from pre-K. And God blessed us with her. There was a time there we wasn't for sure if we could have any more kids, and there was some concerns there. And but then the Lord moved and blessed in that, and just turned that whole situation around. As quick as it was a problem, it was gone. And it wasn't long after that, the Lord blessed us with Lily. And Lily is she doesn't meet a stranger. She's always happy, always smiling, and loves to sing and sing for the Lord. And I thank God for my family. I've got children. I've got grandchildren at a young age because of the Lord allowing my path to cross the path of Acela and putting us together and allowing us to work together in the ministry. She's the love of my life. She's my best friend. I don't want nobody else but her. I thank God for her, and I'll defend her till my dying day if I have to. She's mine, and God gave her to me, and I'll protect her, and I'll love her, and I'm glad that God's given her to me because she loves me, and she takes care of me, and she supports me, and she encourages me. I thank God for my wife. And so my testimony is me, and I've shared how I got saved. I've shared how I've got placed in the ministry. But I tell you, I would not be the man that I am today. I would not be where I am today. I would not be able to do the things that I do for the Lord if it wasn't for the helpmeet that God's given me in Acela. She is absolutely, hands down, the absolute best. She's better than me. I promise you that. She's absolutely the most wonderful person that I've ever known in my life. And everybody that I know that knows her loves her. And a lot of times at church, when people see me, they'll speak to me because they do care about me and they love me. But I tell you, they're more interested in talking to Acela because she's so sweet and always got a smile on her face. And I thank God for her. God knew exactly who I needed and what I would need. And God gave me so much more than all of that in Acela. And so I just wanted to share that with anybody that may watch this. I hope it's a helping and blessing to you. But for my kids, my grandkids, my family, I want you to know how much I love Acela. I want my kids to know how much I love their mom. I want my grandkids to know how much I love their grandmother. I want my family to know how much I love my wife, and that I know that God gave her to me, and I am absolutely blessed to have her in my life. And I'm glad that God put us together. And I'm not going to leave her, and she's not going to leave me. I told her a long time ago, I said, woman, if you ever think about leaving me, you let me know where you're going, and we'll leave together. Amen. I love my wife, and I thank God for her. God sure has been good to me. Amen. I thank God for my testimony.